is KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank.
All right, folks, what's good? Welcome back. Boys, all three of us are here for the first time in what feels like a year, 6 months minimum. I think it's actually been 3 weeks, but we are back, and there's rumors on the street that Kansas basketball played basketball games this last week, and there's rumors on the streets that the football team has a football game this month. So, fun month ahead and behind. But we got to talk before we get into anything else. AB, what happened to your camera? There you go. You went real dark, and now you're muted. We might
awesome.
have to just
Great
restart.
time. No. What happened here was we just talked about, we haven't recorded all together in a long time. I haven't touched I don't use my laptop unless we're recording the pod, so I haven't touched it since, and it was very dead when I turned it on today. So my microphone said it was unplugged. I had to unplug that, replug it back in. As I was doing that, the laptop came unplugged, and it was at like 8% because it doesn't hold any charge. So it was just a big panic for about 20 seconds. So I apologize to everybody out here watching.
Hot start.
We're back, though.
We are back.
Holy shit.
Back.
All right, let's get into some serious topics here, B-Turn. You, the ultimate, I don't even know what to call you. You're like, I've said before, I want to do a Where's Waldo, but it's just where's B-Turn this weekend? Which state, which major event will he find his way at? You find your way to Puerto Rico. Who in the world goes to a summer Kansas basketball? I don't even know what you call what we just played in, but you found your way there. You're in the gym. You're tweeting like you're a journalist. It was killing me. You're reporting on – I mean, you pull things off that I simply can't fathom. Either way, you're in Puerto Rico. Give me just a quick, I don't know, thoughts on how the Hawks looked in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, I truly didn't know what to expect being there. I had no clue what Puerto Rico was like, but it was amazing. I think obviously everyone a part of the program really enjoyed it, and I just think it was amazing. I tweeted it earlier. It's an amazing opportunity for those guys just to get some chemistry together. Obviously play against some NBA guys. There was rumors that DeAndre Ayton would play today. He didn't end up playing, but obviously Buddy Hield, Eric Gordon, a lot of guys, or two guys that have played in the NBA for quite a while. Buddy Hield's one of the best shooters in the entire league. So I think amazing experience. And I think there's a lot of teams in the country that might have got blown out against that Puerto Rico or the Bahamian team they played against today. I mean,
not the Puerto Rico team. I think us three could go toe to toe with the Puerto Rico team, but
yeah. So, and then a great experience to play against grown men on a national team that's representing their country, playing with a ton of pride. So I think that's going to be great for them in the long run. Not a lot of programs get an opportunity like this. So it was amazing. A lot greater than I expected. I really had no expectations, but it was a lot of fun out there.
Yeah. I mean, to me, it's like the perfect off season in a way for this to happen, because we do have like major pieces that are being added into a new team. So I felt like these guys getting any sort of head start to play with each other was awesome. Now, when it comes to these types of tournaments, I think the number one rule is never overreact, never, get your hopes too high. With that said, I think the Hawks are going 40-0. That is my main take. I'm just kidding. But like, if we're going to look, and I know we lost today, so it's like, 40-0 joke maybe doesn't go as well as it might have. But you just saw little signs, and you saw those moments of how fast, how athletic, how experienced, how good. I mean, I want to talk a lot about KJ and Hunter playing together at the 4-5. Like, I questioned that, or not questioned it, but I was curious on how that would work. It appears they could be pretty – I mean – do you think KJ was maybe one of the most positive? Like, did he come out looking better than anybody this weekend? Is that?
I absolutely think so, for sure, because just hearing you talk about the names, I was thinking about DeJuan and Hunter, and you kind of know what you're getting from them. So you know what you're going to get. They're obviously not going to blow you away in Puerto Rico, but you obviously have question marks about KJ. He played the 5 last year. You're not sure what you're going to get from him this year, and he was just great on both ends. scoring it, dishing, throwing lobs, beating his chest in an exhibition game, playing with a ton of energy. He was so good in the first 2 games. That's who I was the most excited about. I know, like you said, the overreaction. Arterio after game 1, I was ready to tweet that he's going to be a first rounder after this year, and him and El Marco, and probably one of them is going to come off the bench. But yeah, I thought KJ was the most positive thing to happen in Puerto Rico, and I think he's in for one hell of a year on both ends of the court.
AB as the pioneer of the KJ Adams should start at Kansas club. How have you been a little worried? I think you have been a little worried about KJ maybe shifting to the 4, and not that, this weekend tells us that things are going to just be perfect, but you said the way he dished the ball, B-Turn, like that to me is kind of what stood out. I think it's going to help Hunter out a ton. So AB, you still loving? Are you all in on the KJ Adams experience still?
Yeah, of course. Never left. As a guy that just had to watch some YouTube highlights of said games that happened in Puerto Rico, just seeing, I mean, he hit a 3 in the corner. Not going to get used to that, but he did it. Which is
won in the first 2 games.
Hell yeah. Perfect. I mean, I don't expect him to hit 1 a game, but like, if it's just an option, just to keep teams honest. We say that all the time, like with DeJuan last year. If you can just get a guy to take 1 or 2 more steps out just because he knows that you could do it, it opens everyone else up, especially the 7-2 guy in the middle. So that was big to see. And then there were times he looked like a point guard, dribbling down coast to coast, dishing it off to Hunter. Like, he just looked like a basketball player, which I think is starting to become my favorite thing about him. He's positionless basketball to its finest, and he's just a sick athlete that goes 150% every time he's on the court, and that's usually going to pay off one way or another, whether it's 15 points a night or lockdown on defense.
Yeah. So I just keep kind of picturing pick and roll with Juan, with Hunter or KJ, vice versa, and he just throws a bounce pass to one of them. The other one makes a floater or dishes it off for an oop to the other one, Hunter to KJ or KJ to Hunter. But yeah, KJ looked amazing. He looked a lot more comfortable, and it looks like he's put in a ton of work this offseason. Obviously, we're not saying his jump shot is the prettiest in the world, but we've heard all offseason how much he's been working on it. Yes. So been working on the jumper, been working on his game as a whole. Last year, you really didn't have to ask for a ton from him besides defensively and an energy standpoint. You kind of had Jay Will and Kevin and Grady to score it. Now, I think KJ can just play free, defend. He's going to bring the energy. He always does. And I think he already looks like it, but become a better scorer.
Yeah. I mean, I think kind of like AB said, if we don't need KJ Adams making a lot of threes, but I think the one concern, if you were to look at this starting 5 and point out one glaring maybe concern, it's shooting from behind the arc. And so if like you can get KJ and DeJuan and even McCuller's going to put up his shots. Like that guy's not afraid to take threes, which I think is good. But if you can get those guys to at least not be in a position where the defense can just sag off you, because then that's just going to kill Dickinson's production. That's going to hurt, guys like Arterio getting to the bucket, things like that. So we've got to find a way for KJ to at least be capable of knocking down an outside shot, which I don't think last year we felt was really possible. B-Turn, you mentioned that El Marco, Arterio, one of them is going to likely come off the bench, but is it possible 2 of them do? Nick Timberlake had a decent, was it today that he had a decent game? I think he had 13. He had 13 in the game.
4 for 12 from the floor. I was going to say, I came away pretty enthused about him. Obviously, we knew he could shoot it. Yeah, 4 for 12. Knew he could shoot it. He's athletic. We've known that. The thing that was lacking was kind of defensively, and we know he's going to have to pick it up defensively to play for Bill. So I'm sure he's locked in defensively to try to get minutes in his last year. But God, he might be on the outside looking in, and that's sad because that guy can play. Like I like his game a lot. But yeah, I'm kind of just. We'll get into Furphy later too, and AB talked about positionless basketball, but maybe all those guys could come off the bench, and it could be DeJuan, Kevin, Furphy, KJ, and Hunter. Bill doesn't promise people playing time or say it to the media. And kind of the way he talked about Furphy made me think maybe there's a possibility this kid starts.
I mean, like, we got to we have this conversation every year. Who's the odd man out?
How he's going to play?
Not playing. I mean, I'm not saying it's going to be him, but is it Timberlake? Is it El Marco? Like that? No, it's a good problem to have, but Bill's never going to play 9 guys 20+ minutes a night.
When Bill looks at the camera and says this kid's going to play big time minutes right off the jump for the number 1 team in the country, that makes me think.
Plus, who's not? He's not looking in the camera and saying Timberlake's not or El Marco's not.
But this isn't including a backup big either. Like Parker Brown.
Brown's gonna play. Braun. Not like his brother played.
I don't know. It's just Bill doesn't really say that about anyone. He doesn't just he never says a 17, 18-year-old is going to come in and just play big time minutes. He said right off the bat. So I don't know. It made me think he might start. I had obviously you guys too. Like we had no expectations about Johnny Furphy. We didn't know anything about him. And it kind of reminded me of Svi, like a late commitment in the off season, foreign white kid that people don't know anything about. He's not ranked on recruiting databases. You don't know anything about him. So I get to Puerto Rico and first thing I do is start asking people about him. And someone like looked at me and was like, pretty much he's really fucking good and he's going to play. And then I talked to someone else the next day and ask about him. And they say people in Australia think he's going to be like, he's the best one to come out of Australia, better than Josh Giddey. Josh Giddey, 6th overall pick in the NBA draft as an 18-year-old, didn't go to college. So I guess he's getting better every time they see him in Australia. So I hear that from those two, and then Bill gets on camera and says that, and I'm like,
so I got a question about this. You brought up Svi. If I don't like I said, I don't know anything about this Furphy dude. He sounds awesome. I love a white Australian kid coming to get you.
Bogey.
Like, I don't know if he's going to be here 1 year, 4 years. I don't know. But let's remove the team accomplishments here. If he has a Svi career, are you happy with that based on what you've heard? Or do you expect like way more, way less? Like, I mean, Svi was really damn good his senior year, but it did take him a minute to get going. And we had to wait 3 years until we like really truly saw it consistently. So I just don't really know what I'm getting out of Furphy here. Is he going to, I mean, we heard all the stuff about Svi when he came over that he was the best pure shooter Bill's ever going to have in his career.
He was never going to be a 4-year guy. Like there was no shot.
So like that's why I'm a little like not skeptical but hesitant to say this Furphy dude's going to be a star when maybe he's a 4-year guy that we love and he's an awesome role player and starter in the later half of his career. But I guess that's just my reservations with him so far. But I also don't know anything about him, and I'm just looking for info from what you heard this weekend.
Yeah. So it's funny. I actually thought about that when I first just heard about it, just thinking about a Svi career. Cause like you said, Svi took a little bit, but senior year, I'm pretty sure he hit the most threes ever in a single season for a KU player. So he ends up having a solid career. I was nervous about it. I think the first few years he just didn't improve really much, but Svi became kind of a killer senior year, and then he's stayed in the league. So, I think that would be great. I think their expectations for this kid are a lot higher. He said, Bill said a mix between Christian and Svi, which is kind of wild. 2 guys he loves. He's obsessed with Christian. And I think the Christian thing just comes from like a mental standpoint from this kid. I think he's a dog. They said he's a playmaker. Just if the ball's in his hands, something's going to happen. And he is just stupid athletic.
Yeah. I mean, I think we've talked about, I've said this like over and over again, and I'm probably oversaying it, but Bill's go-to used to be 2 point guards playing together, and now it's like just getting 3 really good wings that can get downhill, get to the bucket, that are aggressive. Like that's what he fits that role of a Christian Braun so well. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not at all saying this dude is not ready to come in and play big minutes. I think a lot of other teams, he would have come in and maybe started from day one. I'm just having a really, and now granted, Svi was literally 16 years old when he showed up at KU. So like that makes a difference too. But I just have a really hard time figuring out where he and I don't know what major minutes means. Like, so
what did you take away from that combo between Gurley and Bill? Because Bill just lit up, started smiling.
I know. And you're right. Like Bill doesn't, I mean, Bill says crazy thing. He said Quentin Grimes was Darren Williams, which now Quentin Grimes is like a legitimate NBA player. So in the end, Bill kind of was right. But Bill's obviously always pretty high on guys. But
major minutes right off the bat.
So here's the scenario I wanted to talk through. We talked Parker Brown playing backup center. Is there any scenario where KJ plays literally 37 minutes a game and Hunter just a center playing close to 40 is probably a little different, maybe, but Hunter's 32. Still going to play 32, 33. So is there a scenario where KJ shifts to the 5 when Hunter's out, and then that allows you to play DeJuan, either Arterio, Timberlake, Kevin, or like is that where Furphy gets minutes? Like, could he be a 4? Could he be a 3 playing when Kevin's out, or when, I don't know, like that's the only way I see him getting true minutes is if we're playing 5 small guys again, like we did all last year. Cause I don't see a scenario where Nick Timberlake doesn't get minutes. Why would he come here and not get and I get it, that can happen.
A lot's changed since he committed.
Yeah, Kevin came back. Who would have thought Kevin would come back?
Furphy, yeah,
But that's kind of why I said that starting 5 I did a little bit ago, which was DeJuan, Kevin, Furphy, KJ, Hunter, because I think we've all said it between, obviously Juan is starting, but with KJ, we think he's going to start every game the rest of his career for KU. Hunter is absolutely starting. Kevin is absolutely starting. I think it would be between Arterio, El Marco, and Furphy. And I kind of was sitting there watching this weekend. Speaking of Hunter, like sitting on the bench is DeJuan, El Marco, Arterio, Kev, and KJ. I think that lineup could be so electric and fun, quick, just running up and down the floor and beating the shit out of teams on both ends, especially defensively. So I think if Hunter gets a break, and I guess you can mix Furphy in for one of those dudes, but I think that lineup, if Hunter got in foul trouble or he played 31 minutes a game last year. So 9 minutes, you have that lineup just blitzing people defensively.
Okay. So I got a question I'm going to throw to you here in a second, but before we do it, we got to talk about our guys over at Home Field. They've got big stuff coming again. Hold up. Let me pull up all the details, folks. They're back. We've got a new drop Saturday. I don't know. What's the exact time? Do we know the exact time?
It's usually late morning.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to wake 9 a.m. You're going to wake up. Coffee's going to be brewing in the house. You're going to be watching something on TV, and a Home Field drop's going to hit your Twitter timeline, and you're going to be very excited. So if you don't know who Home Field is, if you've been living under a rock for your entire life, they're a premium collegiate apparel brand based in Indianapolis. They have a growing collection of over 150 plus colleges to choose from, including your favorite teams. We've joked on this podcast that they've almost made me want to buy other colleges merch, and I've just never even.
Hell yeah.
But Circus Fonts making a comeback to the university, it feels like, or it sounds like, with the latest hearings from Vernon. But they were first to bring Circus Font back to KU fans. We were asking for it. They made incredible merch from that side of things. So they've got unique designs. That's what I think makes them way better than any other brand out there when it comes to collegiate sports. Is they just have cool stuff that fans want, and they actually deliver what the fans want, which is what makes them very much different. AB, what are your thoughts on Home Field?
They're just the best, man. I mean, like they sent us the package when we first started working with them. Had no idea what to expect, and usually that gives me a lot of anxiety. I wasn't worried whatsoever because I knew whatever they were sending me was going to be so sick, and it was. So I can't wait to dive into the new collection. I have no idea what it looks like yet. Can't wait to see it. It's going to be sick. And I did look at other schools too. I just want to get that out there. Youngstown State, they might be getting an order from me soon.
Yeah, that's the wild thing to me is obviously I follow them closely on social media, and anytime I see their drops for other schools, I'm like, damn. Like if I liked that program, I would cop that right now. But for me, it's tough for me to like wear other college gear, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So, like they've almost gotten me to buy Syracuse shorts, who broke my dang heart in 2003. Georgetown Hoya, like throwback stuff. It's incredible. So yeah, they got a ton of cool stuff. Every KU drop, I want to buy everything. So obviously we love them.
So go check out homefieldapparel.com. They got a wide selection, as we've mentioned, but most importantly, go use our promo code NOSEATS23. That's NOSEATS23. You can get 15% off your first order. And I'm telling you, Saturday's coming, so have that promo code ready and take advantage. So that's Home Field. We're going to take a quick break, and we will be right back.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
All right. Here's my question. Your life depends on it. You don't have any time to explain to me why, but you got to pick one guy out of El Marco, Arterio, Nick Timberlake, who is going to be the odd man out. Who is it? Or maybe not. Let's add Furf. I mean, is there 4 that should be considered?
El Marco can't even be in the combo. Like that dude's going to
We could say that about any of these 4 dudes.
All right.
Wait,
all right.
you added Furphy?
Can't talk. Yeah, let's. So, but I guess I'm trying to quickly think of this. If you
This is
assume
easy.
that one of them's going to start, one of them's going to be the first off the bench, but someone's also got to back up like McCullough and those. So I don't know if you consider the third guy an odd man out, or is the fourth guy 100% the odd man out?
Both.
There has to be one. I think we're all going to have the same answer here.
I promise you I'm not. Let's rank who we say. So starter, first off the bench, third, and then completely odd man out. Because the fourth guy is not going to get minutes.
I don't know how we can evaluate Johnny Furphy, us 3.
Well, that's why it's going to be fun to look back. Like remember we always talk about how our off-season pods are just horrible sometimes. Like I roasted AB for saying KJ would start. The dude started a billion games last season.
I want you guys to go first.
All right.
Run them through again. Arterio, El Marco, and Timberlake. Let's just go with those 3. Let's just go with those 3.
I think that's fair too.
Because Furphy, he might play that stretch role that we were talking about. So let's just leave him out of the equation for now.
Okay. I'm going to give you mine. I think my odd man out, and I'm excited. I think it's El Marco.
Wow,
I do.
Oh, dude, no.
Because listen. Listen. I feel like El Marco and Arterio give you kind of the same things. They're both really athletic. They're both long. They both can probably, I don't know about El Marco, but Arterio is going to defend really well. But they're still, and I guess Arterio can shoot it, can he? I mean, it's not going to be Arterio. That guy's going to play.
It's not going to be El Marco.
And to me, you think it's Nick Timberlake, and to me, like
it has to be.
We have to see Nick Timberlake. Like Nick Timberlake shooting is needed. I really think it is. I think this team needs a shooter that they can fall to if teams scout us to the point where, like I said earlier, where you just let DeJuan shoot it, you let Kevin shoot it, and if Arterio isn't on or El Marco, I don't know. Like if I had to bet my life on it, and it's not even about their overall skill. We're talking about a 5th-year senior versus a freshman.
True freshman.
Bill Self has never been one to just say, oh, yep, this freshman's going to play tons of minutes. If he's not 100% ready, he will sit. And Bill does not care. Yeah. And I'm not saying I feel good about it. I don't know who. I mean, Timberlake probably is the right answer, but I'm having a tough time convincing myself of that.
Here's the thing, Ryan. I understand where you're coming from with that. The reason I disagree so wholeheartedly is the current state of college basketball. If El Marco doesn't play, he's not on the team next year, right? Timberlake's gone regardless. Bill's got, and you have to think that these guys are learning that just like, I'm a big Brother fan. So anyone that watches Big Brother, Survivor, whatever, big part of the game is jury management. Like, yeah, you have to send these guys out. You might piss them off. You might not get their trust going forward. So, like, I kind of think that he wants El Marco to, maybe he's not going to play 40 minutes a night, but give him enough of a role so he can visualize, okay, next year I'll step into the starter role, dominate, and then I can go get drafted in the lottery. Because otherwise he's going to end up at, like, Alabama or Arkansas or something.
It's a good point, but here's the thing. You just go find another El Marco Jackson. Like, it's same way with Ernest Uday. Like, not that we went and found another one. It sucks, but transfer portal opens up scenarios where you get over those guys quick. If you see a Hunter Dickinson pop up and guard form, you don't care if you lose. And I don't know. I don't like this conversation. It's acting like I'm down on El Marco Jackson. I'm like, I think the dude could also be a lottery pick next year. Like, I think there's two scenarios. So
that's kind of my thing, though. Like, are you really really risking having to go out and recruit a upperclassman, but he's not going to be nearly as talented as El Marco? Like, there's no lottery picks you can just go get from the transfer portal, right? Plus, you got to recruit him. I know it's a risk. I know this year is obviously the easiest time to say that because Bill just turned over his whole roster. But we know we talk shit on K-State for the same reason. It just doesn't always work. They're not going to get another Keontae Johnson who couldn't come back or like couldn't play basketball for years, comes in, dominates. That's just not a recipe for success year after year after year. And Bill's smart enough to recognize that, I think. So that's why I think El Marco's going to play for more future, not preparation, but like relationship reasons, I guess.
Like recruiting wise.
Yeah.
So Rye, I don't know if you touched on this, but what would make you take Terrio over El Marco?
I think Self.
Just the freshman thing?
Yes, and I think Self sees something really special in Arterio because I don't think there was potential major baggage coming with Arterio, and I know that I don't really know all the details of that, but I think, I don't know. I don't know all the details of where he stands, but there's baggage there, 100%. And so Bill Self has options. He already had Nick Timberlake coming in. He already had El Marco Jackson coming in. I don't think Bill Self takes a chance on Arterio Morris unless he is 100% convinced that guy is going to be an absolute star. And I think, like you said, B-Turn, after that first game in Puerto Rico, I was sitting there like, oh my God, why was this guy not playing more at Texas? Like, I think he's going to be insane. Like, I think Arterio Morris is going to be maybe the most exciting player on this roster at times this year.
That's kind of why I was thinking about Terrio and Marco playing together on the floor, just electric, running and gunning, playing defense. And I think those are two guys that it'll be really tough for Bill not to give minutes just because they do compete so hard and they play defense. But I had a question about Timberlake. Is if Timberlake's not getting minutes, like say Timberlake is the odd man out, who's the best shooter in the rotation for KU? Who would you say?
Adams.
That's my fear. I think it's
Hunter?
It's Hunter, but that's not realistic because we can't have him standing out there. So it's probably Arterio.
Yeah, and that's another thing with Arterio is, he had 1 year at Texas. He has a year of experience playing college basketball, but he didn't play a ton. So, I mean, this would be his first year playing major minutes at a university. So I think it's just tough with El Marco right now. I mean, someone just came out with a big board that had him 11th overall. I know it's early, but I think it's a wild conversation. And I think when Timberlake committed, everyone thought he was going to where was it?
UConn.
UConn. And he just randomly tweeted that he's coming. Everyone was pumped. And then Kevin comes back, and then you have a bunch of bigs transfer, and then you got open scholarships, and you find Johnny Furphy, and now it just feels like Timberlake kind of got screwed by a couple additions. I know that guy Timberlake can play, like he can shoot, he's athletic, he should play. I think this team is just so good.
What did you have something, AB?
Yeah, I don't know if it's going to be strictly from a shooting standpoint, but why can't Kevin McCullough take the next jump in terms of scoring the basketball, shooting the basketball a little bit better? We see it. It feels like every year at this point where we have a fringe NBA guy that decides to come back and he just all of a sudden a first-team All-American. Don't think that's Kevin McCullough, but I mean, he shoots it enough to, like, if he gets hot, if he's improved it a little bit, he might be the best shooter on the team that actually plays more than 25 minutes a game.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to ask you guys kind of your expectations on Kev and like what his priority will be offensively. Like, will he be a second option? You would think so. I think he was kind of moving at a different pace, different speed in Puerto Rico, just looked different. And he was even better defensively, but still feels like it takes him a while to develop or to release his jumper. It's just a slow developing three. And I think I've always kind of said it's tough for him to really create his own shot. It feels like he's kind of a spot up shooter. So it's just, I feel like it's tough. I can't envision him.
Yeah. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you're good.
I think this type of roster is such a better fit for Kevin McCullough than even last year's was, because last year, if Jalen's off at all and Grady had long stretches where he would be out of a game, it kind of lied on McCullough to go try and get some buckets. Whereas this year's team, it doesn't matter who's in. We just talked about how there's so many guys we can't even figure out who's not going to play. Like, it doesn't matter who's on this floor. Kevin McCullough is going to be able to just play through the flow of the offense. He's not going to have to force anything. He's going to be able to slash, back cut, do all the stuff he's really good at, where he's going to create. I think he's going to get a lot of easier buckets than he maybe did last year. But yes, if he can get confident with a jumper, he could be so good. Because AB, you're right. Like, I'm trying not to do, Ochai became an All-American, Jalen became an All-American. Like, it's different a little bit because there's so much talent on this team, and those guys literally had to become All-Americans or those teams would have sucked.
Kevin doesn't.
I don't think Kevin has to do that.
No.
So,
did you hear what Bill said about him on Mitch Lightfoot and Christine's show?
No.
They had Bill on for like 10 minutes, and he said the two guys he's most excited about was KJ and Kevin, and that they just look completely different from last year in terms of like so much improved. When I heard that, that's kind of when it popped into my head, like, why can't Kevin take that next step? It's not going to be what we saw the last 2 years, but if it's like in terms of importance, the stats might not be the same, but valuable wise, why not?
I'm trying really hard not to like get crazy about this team. So I'm not going to set any like expectations from a like success, like championship perspective, but am I prisoner of the moment, or is this the most fun team right now in the offseason to think about just different lineup scenarios? Like, I can't remember the last time I've been this excited for just, there's so much unknown, but in a good way. Like, Arterio could be a guy that averages 13 a game, or Nick Timberlake could average 13 a game, or Elmarco Jackson could be a lottery pick. Like, there's so many things that could happen that you got to think one of them is going to happen, which just makes it's so exciting. And like B-Turn laid out, there's just so many different lineup combinations that early in the year, especially when Bill's still in his kind of experimenting mode, it's just going to be really fun, especially in like cupcake games, which we don't have a lot of. But
yeah,
I don't know. Like, am I crazy for saying that?
No, I was thinking in Puerto Rico, it's the most excited I've been from a talent standpoint since Wiggins' freshman year and Embiid and all those guys. And I think it's the best. I think it's the best team, I'd say, on paper since 2017 with Wiggins or Devontae, Frank, Josh, Svi, and we love Landon obviously, but we have a big that's pretty much solidified as an All-American. I don't know which team, obviously, and we haven't even talked about DeJuan, which I was just thinking about. Like, we're so secure at the point guard spot for this year and probably next year that we don't even have to touch on Juan because we know what we're getting. And
it's crazy.
Like, speaking of overreactions, after the second game, I was like, well, we just got to accept it. DeJuan he's Russell Robinson. He's going to average 7-8 points for the rest of his career, be elite defensively, and facilitate. And then today he goes 10 for 14 from the floor and had 23, 5 steals.
Literally, Bill like threatened to bench him, didn't he? Bill was like, if you don't start shooting more, if you don't put up 5 threes a game, I think I saw DeJuan say that in a quote, that like, I think we're still going to see that ongoing battle of Bill being like, DeJuan, shoot the freaking ball. And DeJuan's going to not want to because of that's just not his nature and not who, I mean, especially with what he's surrounded by talent wise. But yeah, I was trying to think of like the last time we've started a season with this much excitement, because a lot of times when you start a year like this, there is a ton of excitement. Like even 18 or 2019, we were preseason number one. 2018, 2019, we were preseason number one. We had Diedrich, we had Dotson, Grimes, and that was really exciting, but it was basically just newcomers. Like this is a mix of newcomers and the best transfer player in portal history, in the new era of portal history, and a point guard that we all agree is just the most perfect point guard for to play under Bill Self. So like that's why the more I've thought about this, it's maybe my favorite team.
And a Naismith Defensive Player of the Year candidate came back when we already were gonna be preseason number one, and then they just added a kid that they're talking about might be a lottery pick.
I've got one thing before. I mean, do you guys want to get into realignment at all?
Yeah.
We got 40 minutes on lineup.
Before I predict us winning the national title, we need to get off this team.
No. I heard this earlier, and it was very scary. But KU, we're assuming they're going to be number one preseason this year. They've been number one preseason 3 times in the Bill Self era. I don't know if it's all time, but definitely Bill Self. None of those teams got out of the first weekend.
I know, and that's why it's not happening. Like we're making a final. I will go and say we're making the Final Four. That's a promise.
Just trying to like level us out just a touch, because
now let's think
it's different.
About
but like 09-10 was a bunch of returning guys, very different from 18-19.
That was an ultimate choke job. We all agree on that. But then the other ones, the Diedrich, Udoka got hurt, and then the other one wasn't Bill Self's guys. A team that we've all heard just completely fell apart. Plus Keith Langford got. I mean, yeah, I think
I know small sample size, but I just wanted to put it out there just because we're pumped in August, we're pumped in May, whenever it is.
For sure. Yeah,
anything can happen.
Nobody knows better than we do that you can have as much talent in the freaking world.
One and done tournament.
Yeah. So
should we take a break? Come back, finish up thoughts on the squad.
Last break, and then we're gonna talk conference realignment.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network. Make sure you download our new app. Find it on the App Store or Google Play. Just search KC Sports Network.
Before realignment, we gotta keep talking about this team, dude. Because I'm just sitting there.
We got 8 months to talk about. It's August 7th.
No, we're only a couple months away from the season.
That's what I'm
starting.
saying, but we're going to be talking about them throughout the year, too.
No, we're going to have an episode where we say all these things again in like 2 months.
Yeah, but I just want to say, I keep saying, like, I kept saying in Puerto Rico to people, like, this is the best team I've seen since blah, blah, blah. People kept bringing up 2020, so I wanted to talk about them. And it just felt like that was a group that just was perfect together, and they were so good defensively. But going into that season, obviously we felt good, but Doak had all the injury concerns. We didn't really know what we had in Ochai yet. I mean, he showed flashes the year before. Dot came back. We knew he would have a great year, but from a talent standpoint, this team, I think, shits on that team. And that team won like 16 games straight to end the year, and we're like minus 8,000 to make the Final Four
in the Big 12. People forget that. Like, it doesn't get talked about enough. The Big 12 was freaking stacked that year, and they went 17-1. It drives me
only
nuts.
lost when Dotson got hurt.
So, I was going to say, this is the most talented team we've had since what? What team do you think?
13, 14. Yeah, Wiggins, Embiid, Selden.
But I do think you're right with the thinking of like 2017 is hard to judge because. Well, not really hard to judge, but like in hindsight, 2017, now that we saw how Devontae turned out, he's an All-American his senior year. He wasn't yet, but we knew he was going to be an absolute stud.
Made that jump, baby.
Made that jump. Sfee was, I guess Sfee was still a year away from making his huge jump, but he was still really freaking good on that team. And then Frank Mason's player of the year, and Josh Jackson, I think you could say is probably the best one and done of the Bill Self era. So it's like that team was crazy talented. So it's tough, but it just depends how you judge it. Because if you go 1 through 5, the 5 Dickinson, we love Landon, but Dickinson's just a different level. Jackson
Frank's over DeJuan.
Frank's over DeJuan. But yeah, I guess so.
I think
Jackson's over KJ.
We just get caught up with 17 because, one, they had two players we were obsessed with, Frank and Devontae. Two, they were just so electric and fun, and Josh was one of the better one-and-dones we've had. So, yeah.
We need to talk about what
we won a national title 2 years ago, too. So it's kind of wild saying, like, our expectations for this team's higher than we've had in a long time, and the talent. But Bill,
we just skipped over to talk 2020 and forgot to talk about 2022. Like, it's wild how under the radar that team.
Can we have an August debate of Andrew Wiggins versus Josh Jackson? You said the best one and done. I'm curious if that's actually how you feel, or if you just kind of had a mindset.
I mean, I was the biggest Andrew Wiggins defender of all time.
You got him in your background as we speak.
Yeah, I mean that is my guy, and it just drove me crazy that during his time at KU, people were like, "Oh, he's such a disappointment," and he averaged 17 a game and was like the best player on a really young team. And I think it's all different. Wiggins had to kind of be the guy, whereas Josh Jackson got to let guys like. I think if Wiggins plays with Frank Mason and Devontae Graham, I think Wiggins is better than Josh Jackson. But Josh Jackson was a gamer, dude. And I think Bill Self loved Josh Jackson. And I think, what did Jackson average? He averaged like 15.
I just pulled it up. He averaged 16 and 7, 3 assists.
Around 2.
51%, 38%, 50. Jesus, shoot your free throws.
Yeah.
Josh.
So you compare the fact that Wiggins was playing with Nadir Tharp.
This is actually a fascinating debate looking at this.
Yeah, it's a really fun debate, and it's very you can't, like, if you passionately say one is right versus the other, but I just think Jackson did more. And I love Andrew Wiggins. Yeah, I mean, Josh Jackson was just such a good college basketball player and a great fit for Bill Self, and he just fit that team perfectly. That's the main difference is Wiggins. Not that Wiggins didn't fit that team, but Wiggins just kind of had to do what he wasn't comfortable doing, which was
being the guy, alpha. Yeah.
So I lean Jackson, but circumstances helped Jackson.
Yeah,
he was much more fun, but. No, they both had the same win share in their year at KU too. I don't know anything about what that means, but it was both 4.9. So
Jackson just played so much. And I know Wiggins sometimes was so athletic that you took it as he wasn't playing hard.
Different mentalities.
Jackson I'm so sad that Josh Jackson did not work out. And we've talked about
I know. We've seen your tweets,
We're not
buddy.
doing this again. Moving on.
I want to say, this isn't really shocking or that crazy, but a little quote from Bill on the Puerto Rico trip was saying that this team's better than 2022.
I mean, it's.
I feel like we don't give 2020. I mean, they won it all, but I feel like we don't give them enough credit sometimes from a talent standpoint, because you have 2 top 21 picks. David played here for so long. Remy was so electric. DeJuan was still on the team. Jalen just got drafted. So.
Yeah, and I do think we forget, like, when I talked about all the fun lineup possibilities with this team, I remember that offseason before 2022, we're sitting there like, how's Jalen Coleman Land? Like, Jalen Coleman Lands has to get minutes. He was Iowa State's leading scorer. How's he not going to play? And it was just like maybe a Timberlake situation where you guys are saying, like, I'm having that moment with Nick Timberlake. Like, why would that guy come here if he's not going to get minutes? But Jalen Coleman Lands just wanted to go somewhere and win, and he didn't care if he was going to play 10 minutes a game and just hit spot up threes. So maybe that is Nick Timberlake's role. So, but that team too, like you had Mitch Lightfoot, a 6th-year freaking guy coming off the bench. You had Remy Martin coming off the bench. You had Jalen Coleman Lands. I feel like I'm forgetting another piece off the bench. Like, they were just stacked.
KJ.
Yeah, I mean, KJ. So, yeah, 2022 is forever, for whatever reason, going to be slept on, which is wild to say out loud. But, like, I think there's always going to be flashier teams. They were not flashy.
Well, so
they just knew how good they were.
Yeah, but 2022, I feel like kind of snuck up on us. Like with other teams, I feel like we're like, this team is good enough to win the national championship. And all year with 2022, we were just like, Yeah, when they're at their best, they're really good, but they're not really at their best too often. They've got a lot of we're more worried about what the issues were, and then all of a sudden, bracket broke their way, and bam, they're in the national championship game. Like, holy shit, they're actually about to do this thing.
Because I remember that whole year we kept saying this team can definitely get to a Final Four, but if they get to a Final Four, can they be the best team in that Final Four? And then they did, and they were very clearly the best team in that Final Four. Even if they didn't win that night, they were still the best team that showed up at that Final Four. So, yeah, they did, because we talk about it. It's a legendary night in KU Twitter history. We lose to TCU that late March game on the road, and it was one of the all-time meltdowns we've ever seen. And then the Big 12 tournament, something clicked, and that's where we were all like, wait, this team could win it all. So,
yeah.
Look at us talking about an exhibition, 3-game exhibition for 45 minutes in August, and now K-State and Mizzou fans are going to say, typical KU fans talking about KU hoops in August.
Hey, I'm giddy. I was just giggling thinking about how excited I am for this basketball team. It's stupid how good they're going to be.
See, KU is ranked 23rd in the coaches poll today, football.
You're lying.
Yeah.
No,
you're lying. No.
I knew you guys hadn't been paying attention to shit.
They got a vote. I saw they got a vote.
I was like, why did we not lead the show with that?
I sat there and was like, man, rankings don't matter. And then I was like, God, if we were ranked, I would be all on Twitter like KU preseason. I didn't expect to be, obviously, but it's just funny.
I got a shot at the AP. Doubtful.
Okay, so enough talk about a basketball team that doesn't start for another 2 months, but game team.
My favorite.
Let's talk realignment, because I'll be honest, I am someone that I've been so checked out on realignment. It drives me. I'm so annoyed that it's even got to this point. It's so insane how it's just bullshit that this is what college sports has become. It just
fire me up, baby.
And it just annoys me. And so I don't even, it's like politics. I don't waste my time reading about it because it just annoys me. But I will say, I don't know what it was, but Arizona coming to the Big 12 got me a little giddy.
Mr. Tommy Lloyd would like that.
Got me a little giddy. And so now I'm very excited. Now,
first Tommy Lloyd.
And AB, I'll let you, AB, I'll let you lead the way on this, but the only way you can survive is to have this happen. And so I don't think there's any scenario where you can be mad at what's transpired for the Big 12, right?
No, Big 12, they're in great shape. I am So the question is, and I don't know if I had this conversation with you guys or some of my other friends, but do we think the Big 12 regrets taking on UCF and Cincinnati and BYU and not like the remaining Pac-12 schools or anything great, but they're ACC teams are talking about leaving. What if they got Florida State instead of UCF?
Yeah, I want UCF out.
Yeah, but it is, regardless, they're in a much better position than we thought they would be 2 years ago when Texas and OU left, and we thought the Big 12 was crumbling, and we're desperately trying to say, Big 10 Hawks, let's go, baby. But I'm fine with this. This is a fun conference.
Yeah.
Basketball-wise, even football-wise, we're not going to have a dominant national championship contender every year. Maybe Utah pops up, TCU last year, whatever. K-State might have a hell of a year. They usually do that once every 20 years. But it's just fun. There's going to be high-scoring football games. There's going to be deeply passionate basketball games. You're adding 2 1 seeds, or no, you're adding a 1 seed and a 2 seed from last year, and a 1 seed from the year before, and a 5 seed that beat that 1 seed from the year before into this basketball conference. I can't fucking wait. You guys are laughing at me. I'm passionate. A lot of people
deeply passionate.
Basketball games.
But I love it.
Are we not deeply passionate? Allen Fieldhouse might as well be a sex shop with how passionate.
It's one of those things where obviously you sit back and you can't, it's out of your control. There's nothing you can do. So you sit back and watch it, see what happens. In my head and brain, I know KU is always going to be fine. If the Big 12, when they were talking about the Big 12 not being a conference anymore, whenever that was, I knew KU would be fine, get picked up by the Big 10 or whatever. So didn't stress me out at all. I think I obviously love the addition of Utah from a football standpoint. Arizona games out there in Tucson are going to be really fun. Arizona State. I mean, Tempe would be fun. I know UCF's the same way. Their campus, it's kind of that's always has kind of been a weird addition to me. Just not really flashy or that exciting. I know they've had some good football years, but yeah, it's like if you have those teams and there's some big time programs wanting to come to the Big 12, I guess there's obviously nothing you can do. You sign those teams to contracts and they're in the Big 12 for good. But yeah, say a North Carolina or a Florida State wanted to come to the Big 12 and you lost out on them because of a UCF or who else? BYU. They're solid. They're good at football, but
if North Carolina and Florida State say they want to come, they're going to make room for them.
Yeah. Here's the bad truth about it all. We're going to probably be talking about all this again in like, how many years? I don't know how long.
It'll be a while. I think Big Ten.
Like how many teams could it get up to?
Shit,
or
man.
it's 16 or 18?
16 now.
The Big 16?
But the Big Ten's got 18. And if we would have told you there was an 18-team college football conference 10 years ago when this first happened, I wouldn't have believed you. Are we in a safe space right now? I've got to take on this whole situation.
Always safe space. A deeply passionate safe space.
A lot of people are like sad and they hate this conference realignment thing. I kind of fucking love it. Like,
dude, boomers
at the end of the day, like I get it. Like there's some rivalries,
sports.
There's some traditions. The Pac-12 was an old historic conference, but like at the end of the day, when USC and UCLA left, they were toast. They were just toast. Like that, we all could read the tea leaves. That conference was going to collapse sometime soon, and it happened to be last week. Deadlines make deals. The deadline's a week from tomorrow, I think, for this to be in effect in 2024. But anyways, like all this does from a fan perspective, we've moved on from Missouri leaving the conference 10, 12 years ago. We're on to, let's just like, we're almost 30 years old. We're going to be able to watch so many more awesome football games that we just don't get to see now. Cool basketball rivalries we don't get to see now. And I get like tradition means something, but at the end of the day, and I say this with the college football playoff expanding too, at the end of the day, are we really going to complain when we get to see the number 5 team versus the number 12 team in a game that means something?
We all get up for any
I'd
game.
rather watch that than a meaningless Sugar Bowl between a conference champ and an at-large team that literally means nothing, and players are deciding if they should even play. So it's like more fun games, more elite matchups from teams that we're going to start seeing play each other more often now they're in the same conference, but that we're not used to seeing. That's just fun to me. So I'm all in for this, and I know a lot of people are upset, but we're all
gonna get up for those games, like you said. 5-12 going to be nationally televised. Everyone's going to have money on it, gambling. Like, no matter what, we're going to watch it. It doesn't matter if it's freaking Coastal Carolina versus Alabama. Like, you're going to watch the game because it's going to be the only thing on, and it's going to be, on ESPN all over the country.
From like our perspective as a Big 12 school, like this couldn't have gone really much better because if I had to pick a conference to go away, it would have been the Pac-12 because we don't watch, like we watch way more Big 10, we watch way more SEC just because time zones and, football wise, obviously the SEC is the king, but like Pac-12 for me, I feel bad for those schools, but also they started it. I feel like they started it all. Like,
they could have been aggressive when this all started happening. Remember the rumors in 2010 or 11 or whatever when the Pac-12 was apparently really in on Texas, Oklahoma State.
Oh, yeah. Big 12.
If they would have done that, the Big 12 is swallowed up in 2011.
We'd be the Mountain West Jayhawks right now.
Yeah.
Like, we would be irrelevant.
So as far as the people in charge, I don't want to hear it. Now, I do feel really bad for like the smaller sports that don't generate revenue that are either going to have to not play in conference games or have to travel from Eugene, Oregon to Rutgers for a Wednesday night baseball series. Like that sucks. I do feel bad for them. That seems to be a popular consensus. Also, Eli Drinkwitz, dork, but he nailed his little presser earlier. Was it last night that he had that?
Yeah.
Like, how's the NCAA throwing a fit about how NIL's handled while you guys are out there signing like $10 billion TV? Like, shut up. Let people make their money. It's insane.
When I led this whole conversation off with like, I've just quit reading because it just all annoys me. Literally everything is about money. Like, the same with the PGA Tour and the Live stuff.
Yep.
Like, it all comes down to money. And so when these guys that are all money hungry complain about college kids getting money, which, by the way, I think we would all agree NIL has been a massive success.
Yeah.
Like, it really hasn't gotten near
It
as out of
some
like,
tweaking, but yeah, overall
it looked like it was going to get out of control when like Nigel Pack was getting a massive bag, but that's not happening all that often. And so it is just you're right. It's awful that people that are on the swimming team at Central Florida have to, I mean, every week they're on I don't even know what they're going to do. Like, it's terrible. It's so stupid. But
Silvio had to go to court. Silvio had to go to court for getting his classes paid for.
Yeah, it's just gross but it's also awesome that I think we're now officially at a spot where everyone's at least getting closer to being like, yeah, that was absurd. This is a major business and the players deserve money and the guys running the show are trying to make as much money too. And here we are. And like AB said, it's going to be more fun as long as your conference or your team doesn't get booted to something irrelevant. Just imagine being Stanford right now. Like,
they're in talks with the ACC. That would be crazier than anything we've seen yet. Can you imagine?
Where
because at least like Washington, Oregon, we'll play USC and UCLA this week. Cool. Like, they can stay local, but then it's a random outlier they got to travel.
What are your guys' thoughts on the Arizona State edition?
It's fun.
Yeah, I mean,
it just makes sense.
It had to be done. It felt like
both Arizona schools.
Yeah, I think it in like 5 years you'll look at that and be like, okay, you got 2 Kansas schools, you got 2 Oklahoma schools, you got 2 Arizona schools, you got 2 how many Texas
Utah schools, 4 Texas schools.
Yeah, so it's like it outside of really Central Florida, like you said, AB, Central Florida, Cincinnati, and West Virginia now to me is such a Big 12 team that it doesn't register to me. But like those are really, and mainly Central Florida is like the one team that kind of, if you look at a map, you're thinking that's stupid. Why is that team in the conference? But that's what I love about what the Big 12 has done compared to like the Big 10, where you've got UCLA playing Rutgers. The Big 12 is in a way still a very Midwest to West conference, other than UCF and I guess Cincinnati. But Cincinnati's very much Midwest. I don't know. So it also just makes a lot more sense, I think, than some of the other scenarios that were getting thrown out throughout all this. And the Big Ten's obviously just a complete weirdo conference now. But
do these conferences ever change the name of the conference when they're sitting at like 20 plus teams?
I was thinking about that, but I can't imagine the value in just the name the Big Ten. Like how much rebranding that would have to go into that, and how much just like at this point, I don't know what the Big 12 is going to do. It's really only the Big 12 and the Big 10 now, but the Big 10 should just go to 20 and have the 2 Big 10s, I guess, 2 conferences and go from there. Just how the hell are they going to get how the fuck are they putting together a conference football championship? Like, how are they going to do that?
I don't know.
Go Michigan.
It is
legends and leaders.
I don't know. AB's kind of got my brain spinning now, just talking about are we going to regret adding the UCFs and the Cincinnatis and stuff? Like, say we add like a UNC and a Florida State. I don't know. It's just like thinking about having if you add like you have 20 plus teams and you have like a UCF on your schedule. Like, it's just, I feel like that's going to be so boring.
I
don't know. But also you can have teams on your schedule that I'm not saying we're better than all these teams, but you could have some games on your schedule that you have a dub now. Like maybe those bottom tier teams, Cincinnati's been good, obviously, but say they're not good. Maybe that'll be easy dub for the old Jayhawk football program.
And here's the thing. These brands like UCF, becoming a Big 12 school could turn them into like a very fun brand. Like they're already kind of a fun brand, but like it's a whole different world now, and they could be in 5 years, kind of like TCU went from a
Utah,
Mountain West. Yeah, like now they could become a power if they, if it works out, UCF could be like a major power in college football.
They did win a national title in football recently.
People forget.
Who's the most boring team in the league to you right now?
Cincy. They lost their football coach. It's Cincy.
Yeah, I forgot they lost him.
I wanted AB to say Kansas State so bad.
I've got
the dang day.
You played for
got one
Coach
more
Snyder?
thing before we get out of here. I think that this probably has a 1% chance of happening. I can't wait for BYU. I would say 1% chance that this happens, and I know nothing. But what if Yormark just puts his balls on the table and goes and gets both UNC and Duke and turns the basketball conference, and you've got KU, North Carolina, Duke, Arizona, just as your top 4 to start.
And Coach K comes out of retirement. And
Baylor.
Rinehart is pumped.
Whew, it won't happen, but can you imagine if it would, if the ACC starts to crumble? Which it sounds like it could. We'll find out in the next week if it does or not right away. But they're locked in, but it sounds like teams are trying to get out of it.
Imagine like a Clemson.
Clemson just screams SEC, though. Like, can't you just picture that?
Oh, yeah.
Just take a look at it.
So does Florida State, I think.
Oh, yeah, Nick, that's right. Duke, North Carolina, Gonzaga, and
Villanova
finish the conference. Villanova can piss off.
Let's just do an NCAA. Let's do 5 NCAA tournaments for all seasons. You just have one in the fall, you have one in the middle of the winter, and you have another NCAA tournament in the spring.
I didn't hear what you said, right? What did you say?
I was just saying that we should just turn basketball into 3 segments of NCAA tournaments: a fall one, a winter one, and a spring one.
Oh my!
All right, let's wrap it up. We're off the rails as always, but
deeply
fun episode. I needed something. I needed this basketball weekend to happen just to see the guys playing, seeing Bill talking to Gurley. It's great vibes, and we've got football coming up, and we do promise that probably next week, I think we got to hit football hard. Maybe we'll get a football guest, maybe a little Brandon McAnderson to get us all fired up. Like
24 days.
But we need that.
Last I looked, it was 25. We're 24 days from Missouri State coming into the booth.
Love it.
And then Illinois the week after at the booth.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, that's it. Thank you all for listening. We'll be back next week. Rock Chalk.